Hey, welcome back. This is Chase, the hijacker, and I'm joined once again by Steve, Dark Steve. I would have
Hello,
called
how
him
you
Black
doing, buddy?
Steve, but then they would be called a racist.
Oh my god.
So we're back here. We're on the shelf where we take our favorite films, old films off the shelf, and we talk about them. And so right up at the top of the trifecta is that we're going into television. So usually when me and Dan do this, we look at our favorite films from the 70s and 80s and everything, and we either look at the genres or the directors and everything. So Dan doesn't, is not of my age bracket, and so he's not into that whole Marvel TV shows. So that's why I had to call in my good old friend Steve here to talk about what I call the golden age of Marvel. Marvel on television for us kids, this was like pablum. I would have said saliva, but more like pablum. You know what I mean? I'm sorry for our young viewers if I did that, but still like and subscribe down below. But so we're gonna look at the Incredible Hulk, Spiderman, and Captain America, and believe it or not, they were on television back in the day and everything. So and we'll swim, as we do, and we'll swim.
Yep.
And we also do recognize that DC had television shows too, but we figure, hey, look, separate episode for that. Let's not get it twisted and confused and stuff. So we should probably, start in the earlier period. And like one of the things I wanted to say right off the top there, because you didn't know this, Steve, is that CBS was kind of like the first CW because they had three, not two, but three superhero shows on at the same time back in 79. So that was Incredible Hulk, Wonder Woman from DC, and Spider-Man. Did you know that, Steve?
No, I did not know that.
That must have been like, whoa, I must have been like, whoa, this is excellent. It's in 79 now. I was just going off to high school, and I must have been like, oh my God, I got three shows to pick from this week and everything. And but because we also had, the Superman movies, right? Christopher Reeve movies, but that's DC, so, and we were talking about, TV's attempt. So before we go into our golden three, me and you were having some conversations about TV's attempt at doing superhero shows, and and you feel it began with our man Steve Austin, the $6 million man.
Okay, indeed. Well, the thing is, okay, so obviously you had Batman in 1966. You had the William Dozer
Yeah.
TV shows. You also had the Green Hornet.
Uh-huh.
Very much a stylized kind of version of the superhero drama. Not very much. I made much characterization based on any sort of like form of reality. Not really taking it particularly seriously.
Yeah, you had a lot of action shows, you had a lot of cop shows, but
Yeah,
like we didn't really have a lot of people with superpowers unless they were
when it came to
aliens.
no, when it came to superheroes, they were either camp or it was very much designed for children.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is about if you look at the $6 million man, is that he is basically a superhero in all
Mm-hmm.
but comic book, right?
Yeah.
He could have easily have been a comic book character. In fact, when you look at Deathlock the Demolisher,
Mm.
Deathlock the Demolisher is based on $6 million man, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah. I was telling you, like the toys that I used to get, they kind of like had that, glass shield around the leg and the arm where you could see the metal inside. So yeah, definitely Deathlock. Good call.
the $6 million man, even though it's not, as I say, not technically based on a comic book, is one of the progenitors that create the blueprint that leads on to CBS trying their hand at creating their own sort of version of a $6 million man. Because after all, $6 million man ran for I think it's about 6 seasons,
Yeah.
hugely popular, and had the spin-off TV show, the Bionic Woman,
Bionic
like
Woman. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Jamie Summers. So you're
Yeah,
gonna
most
want a
definitely.
piece of that pie, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, no, no,
if
definitely.
there's an audience out there and they're laughing this up, how are we going to compete? Now, you can try and do another sort of like a cyborg show, but everybody's going to say, well,
Mm,
you're just going to be $6 million man. And some networks did try to do that. I think there was a Future Cop TV show with
yeah.
Ernest Borgnine and a robot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they tried to
Yeah.
do Westworld.
Well,
So, but
they
what
also,
CBS,
yeah.
so what was CBS did? Instead was they looked for something that had a legitimacy to it, the fact that it already pre-existed, but could be molded into a show that would appeal to that target audience. Now
Mm,
they had went into some different directions with it because obviously you looked at Wonder Woman, which is one of the shows over
yeah.
that time. Not necessarily completely camp, but had a sort of an ambiance to it that had a bit of a campus to it. Then you've got the Spider-Man attempt TV show, which again, not entirely camp, but definitely had a camp influence to it. In fact, probably most people who grew up watching the Spider-Man TV show will remember the skits that used to be on television when it came to doing like comedy shows. You know, that they used to do like skits on the Spider-Man character. He would climb up the side of a building. He needed to
Mm-hmm.
go use the toilet, but he didn't have a zipper. Stuff like that, right?
Well, also,
Kenny Everett is an example, right?
yeah, but also too is that they had a popular children's program called The Electric Company. You know that Morgan Freeman was on there as Easy Reader and everything, but they had a Spider-Man sketch on there, but their Spider-Man didn't talk, but it just was like word balloons and stuff like that. So, you know what I mean? It'd be like Spidey. Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
but
but I also think that like I was looking at some of these unused pilots at this time where they had like I remember a show called Gemini Man with Ben Murphy.
yes,
You know where
yeah, the
he
guy
had it.
who was in Alias Smith and Jones. He
Yep,
starred.
yep. Elliot Smith and Jones, and he had like you could press something inside of his hand, kind of like the question, but it'll turn him invisible.
Oh, he had a watch. He had a watch. He pressed the watch, and he could be
Uh
invisible for X amount of time on the watch.
yeah. And then they had I Man, which funny enough, he was indestructible, right? But like funny enough, it was played by Scott Bakula, who later became, Quantum Leap, as well
Sandpaper.
as Star Trek Enterprise. Was it?
Enterprise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Captain Archer.
And yeah, Captain Archer, thank you. And then they had this robot attempt at what to me, when I saw this, I thought this was like Iron Man, but it was
Yeah.
Exo Man, which we were talking about that I took a gander at this morning and I was horrified because it was like a man inside a 3D printer. I mean, like before they even knew what a 3D printer was. So it's like he would print his
It's funny
outfit on
because
himself.
me and you were talking about this Exo Man, and we are like, we gotta look it up. And then I
Ugh.
remember we looked it up on YouTube, and it's like
Yeah.
it's funny because your childhood really does play tricks on you, right? Because you think, oh
Well,
man,
if you looking at comics in the spinner
you
rack,
can smash the buildings,
yeah,
and then it's like you're watching, it's like this is terrible.
horrible and stuff.
Yeah.
But so CBS, said, well, look, why don't we just go after those guys who make the comic books, um, Marvel and everything, and they came up with Spider-Man, starring Nicholas Hammond, who
Yes.
everybody remembers from The Sound of Music and everything. Now I also have to preface this, so Steve, because I've asked you, right? So when Spider-Man was a TV series that played in America, and it had like about 12 episodes, but over here it played as about 2 or 3 movies. Is that right?
Yeah, there was couple of movies. Spider-Man, I think it was Spider-Man's Revenge and Spider-Man
Mm,
and the Dragon's Challenge.
yeah, and that was
Um,
supposed to be Spider-Man versus the Triad, but hey, what are you gonna do?
yeah, but it goes to
Kung Fu. They were tapping into Kung Fu, Steve, is what I'm trying to say.
absolutely. Well, yeah, there was elements of that I think all the way through the series. But I think with that one, he goes to Hong Kong,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so the whole thing about what the TV show in the States and in England, what was happening was they were taking two-parters,
Yeah.
like the pilot
Yeah.
and set of episodes, cutting them together and making an hour and a half movie, and then playing
Yeah.
them on the cinema in the UK.
Which I
Because
think is really strange because they don't even relate to one another. It would just
no,
be like they finish one adventure and then they just go off to another one. Oh, Peter,
yeah, pretty
you
much. There's
know,
no, yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they probably trimmed some of the fat in that. But I mean, it was crazy because so when I was looking up at the information of this, right? So it was 77 that it came out,
yeah,
but with the pilot episode, they had a different J. Jonah Jameson, right,
yeah.
from the series. So Robert F. Simon is probably what people might remember most. And I don't even know if you got to see the original J. Jonah Jameson, but it was played by the guy who played Larry Tate on I Dream of Jeannie. You know what I
Oh,
mean? You know, he was
okay,
the first.
yeah.
But neither J. Jonah Jameson had any bluster. Neither J. Jonah Jameson wasn't like, you know, from the comics or from the movies or anything like that. It was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, Pete, yeah, you want to get some pictures for us, you know?
They
And
weren't exactly gruff, but they were like they were. It was. I think they always had a, well, at least one of them did. They always had like a sort of like a bit of a scowl on them. But yeah,
well,
they
yeah,
were
I mean,
never.
Robert Simon did have a little bit of that, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
to the extent, you know.
Oh no, it was no proper James.
And also too is that what also was interesting is that Aunt May was in the first episode. Well, she was in the first two episodes technically, but then she all of a sudden disappears from subsequent episodes and returns again later, but as a different actress playing Aunt May. Right? It's like it's kind of like these guys, they don't get it, right? But what's
Hey,
important about
it takes a while for the plastic surgery to calm down.
yeah,
Just,
okay, but
Aunt May is a bit. She's feeling a bit down.
yeah,
She's lost
yeah,
her.
yeah.
She has a bit of plastic surgery.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah, yeah,
she's
yeah.
happy.
But the main thing about it is the fact that what was important is they never had an Uncle Ben. So even though
Yeah,
they had the generic origin of Pete getting bit by the spider and building the web shoes and all that other kind of stuff, he never had the motivation. So people kind of speculated that was what was wrong with this series or movies or whatever, was the fact that yeah, we got Spider-Man, crazily, being pulled up by a rope, right? So he never
yeah.
really felt attached to the building and everything.
Well, yeah.
But
I mean, they took the emotional core out of the character. I mean, if you
yeah,
look
there
at
was
it,
no there was
let's
actually
be
no
blunt about
drama.
it.
There was actually no
Yeah.
drama at all. There were no
And another
supervillains.
thing I really hated about the TV show, right, and
Mm.
it was a real massive disappointment for me at the time, was there was no actual villains from the comic books.
Exactly,
I
that's what I'm
know it could
saying.
be it could have been difficult, but come on,
No.
Craven the Hunter, you could have created the Craven the Hunter.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
hunter, right? That's what he is. That's all
No.
he is.
Exactly. But I mean, I guess this was like, remember, I'm trying to say this is kind of like one of the first, like Marvel attempt at their super shows. But I mean, they
Yes.
didn't take it at all seriously. I mean, they hired a guy who like just actually directed TV shows. I mean, like this guy did like maybe like 7 episodes of The Partridge Family, but funny enough, he did a couple of episodes of I Dream of Jeannie, which is how you got Larry Tate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, you want
But
to
here's
come
the
over with
thing.
me and over there?
I think actually you've raised a really good point there, actually,
Hmm.
because what you mentioned was that this is an early time, right? Yeah, for
Oh
Marvel,
yeah, that's what we're talking
and
about. We
and
know it's
and
bad.
yeah, and it's early. It's an early attempt to try to do anything really live action with a Marvel Comics character.
Yeah,
Obviously, before that, they had the cartoons. The only
yeah.
one that was really stood out because, let's face it, the animation was pretty poor on the others.
Hmm.
The Spiderman cartoon, that was the one that sold overseas and kind of put kind of Marvel on the map insofar as becoming a company that was bigger than just being comic books. But the thing that I think people need to keep in mind and remember is the idea of Marvel as a studio, as a film studio, was something that looked after its own IP, that Raymond was savvy about how to translate its characters to screen. That did not exist in the 70s.
Yeah.
You had a small comic book company run by Stan Lee, who had started, probably admit this to himself, he had a bit of stars in his eyes. He liked the idea of putting these characters on screen.
Yeah.
And if someone put a check in front of him, and
He'd
gave
take
him,
it.
yeah, he'd take it. And he'd sign it, and he'd take it.
Yeah.
And there was no real care or attention put into who was making what.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you end up with Canon making a Fantastic Four movie that was never designed to be seen.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So,
but that's why we've got this really sort of like equality wise, like quality is all over the place, right? When it comes to Marvel, especially around this period in the 70s, even into the 80s and even the 90s, it doesn't even change. When you get to Blade, it only changes when the watershed moment happens.
Yeah,
Iron Man is released.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's stay in the point. You're swimming too far out. You're swimming too far out to the ropes.
Oh no, yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm just putting that into context, right? These are the wilderness. Yeah. These are wild. This is a wild west time, right, for Marvel when it comes to television.
Yeah,
we're rolling the dice, and we don't know what's going to happen.
No, exactly. So let's talk about equality then. You kind of like said it, but so they had their attempt at diversity with this show, where so they had Robbie Robinson, but it was a younger Robbie Robinson, and he was only in the pilot and everything because they had another black character who was Glory Grant, who actually was from the comics. Played by Chip Fields, who was Tootie's mom, the girl from Facts of Life and stuff. So that was pretty interesting, But the strangest thing is that you had the love interest of Ellen Bry, who was a fellow photographer. So she wasn't Mary Jane, she wasn't Gwen Stacy. So they made her up for the show, but then they didn't even really have they didn't even have this kind of love connection with her and Peter anyway. So if anything, it seemed like more of a love connection with Glory than with Ellen. So it's really a strange show on all boards. I mean, this really is like I can't even begin to watch a Spider-Man episode, to be honest with you. But funny enough, there was a somewhat of urban legend, but I think it is still true, is the actress Joanna Cameron, who played Isis. When we probably talk about DC, we'll probably talk about her. But I believe she was on an episode of Spider-Man and everything. But but it was like I seen it on YouTube and stuff. So I don't know if you heard of this, whether she was on Spider-Man or he was on ISIS, right? But they were on scene together and everything. So I was wondering, did you hear anything about it? Like I said, it's an urban legend. You know the Mighty ISIS though, right? You remember that show?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So the lovely Joanna Cameron was on.
That's actually a show that I don't think traveled over here.
Probably not, because it was a Saturday morning show, wasn't it? So
with the power of YouTube, we can catch up on all these kind of stuff. That's why I like to hear about stuff like the Powers of Matthew Star, for example.
Ooh, great show! I love Powers of Matthew Star.
Yeah, or we had Man from Atlantis, and we had the whole.
Oh yeah. But that's it again. DC again. You swim.
Yeah, but it's interesting though to mention that actually.
No, I know. I love swimming. I love swimming. Swim back. I know I love swimming.
It's part of that whole cycle that influences the studios to delve into Marvel. So that's still part of it, of the whole sort of the journey.
But I think the last.
But no, I've never heard of the ISIS stuff.
Yeah. But I think the last thing to say about Spider-Man, because it's not much, like we said, that it wasn't really much attached to the comics. It was a good first attempt. It was good to know, actually, that it traveled overseas, so it played over here in the cinemas. But
Yeah,
also, too, is that because he was the first back here in '77, it was kind of like iconic because I still consider the Fox Spider-Man movies at the Sam Raimi editions. I still consider that trilogy the start of Marvel, even though Marvel doesn't. Even though Kevin Feige worked on it, but it was part of
yeah,
Avi Arad's Marvel Film Entertainment, and Marvel Films
yeah.
Television is different. So, but either way, is that came later to us, like in 90, like around 97, so 20 years later. So that's why in the golden age of Marvel we have the TV version of Spider-Man
Yeah.
and everything. So moving on from there.
Funky guitars,
Hmm?
not particularly great special effects, but a lot of good.
Well, I kind of like the rope. I
Good
kind of like the
comedy,
ropes. I
comedy
kind of like the
scripts.
rope snicked, because every time he had to hold his arm out and that rope. I love it when that rope turns into a net. Like
Oh
when it
yeah,
when it
yeah.
drops onto people and everything like that. But
Didn't
like
they
when he's
do? Didn't they
holding
do a
it, it's
two-parter?
obviously a rope, not a thread.
Yeah, didn't they do a two-parter where he falls, and then the conclusion of the two-parter is he's fired. He's done the rope schnicked
Yeah,
thing, and he's created a big sort of like trampoline for himself.
yeah,
I seem to
yeah.
remember that being a thing.
Yeah, yeah, but it's just
To
like
be honest,
he
I
just
was
shoots and then it just drops into frame and just floats into flame, just the same way that the nets when he throws it on people. So it's weird.
I was of an age where I mean my whole memory of the Spider-Man TV show is clouded with the idea that I'm bouncing around on a couch trying to fire imaginary webs. So
Who didn't, bruv? Who didn't?
exactly, you know.
You,
So
you
you
either
know,
did that or you put a cape around your, well, not a cape, a towel, because
yeah, she
a
could,
towel, and yeah, you do that. I mean, who didn't?
yeah,
So anyway, so moving on is like to our second thing off the shelf would be the Incredible Hulk TV series. Now,
yes,
the TV series ran from 78 to 83, so it came out. Remember I said that technically Spider-Man was 2 seasons.
yeah,
So even though it was pretty much dead in the water, it was running kind of like a current. So imagine being a kid, and like you got Spider-Man on one night, Wonder Woman on another night, and the Incredible Hulk on another. You'd be like, "Oh my God, what did you watch? What did you watch?" But obviously, the Incredible Hulk was the best.
easily
Bill
the best.
Bill Bixby, and for me, Lou Ferrigno went to my high school.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
went to Brooklyn Tech. So I mean, whoa, Tech Night, and inspired me to join the weightlifting team as well. So I joined the weightlifting team, and I became a champion deadlifter. Deadlifting. So I could lift
Yeah,
600.
yeah.
I could lift 600 pounds because of Lou Ferrigno and everything.
Wow.
He was my inspiration. But so I watched them every night on this show. And we were talking about it before. So the series that led up to the trilogy of films, we were talking about it before, where it had even though the Incredible Hulk was kind of like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, kind of like the Frankenstein. The TV way of doing them, CBS, was to make him a journeyman, like as you said, the fugitive. So
Yes, the
David
Mr. Kimball
Banner,
type, yeah.
yeah,
Or
Mr. Kim.
there was another
Well,
TV
he,
show in the 1970s or 1970, I should say,
mm,
called The Immortal, which is also sort of like a brief sort of
yeah,
blueprint
yeah.
for.
Well, I mean, it was just a very common trope, because I don't know if you remember that show Werewolf.
Yeah, there was Werewolf.
But that was the same thing, like where the guy he's looking for his patriarch, the one who started the
Yeah,
bloodline and everything. So it will always be, let's create a hero, let's have like a 2-hour movie, and then at the end, let's give people an excuse to come every week for a different anthology, a different location, different cast, and
yeah,
but the iconic moment right? I don't know if you watched it when it first came out. I don't know if you, because I remember it was a movie over here as well, wasn't it? The opening pilot
Incredible Hulk.
was, huh?
Yeah, the Incredible Hulk was a movie, but unlike Spider-Man, for whatever
Yeah,
reason,
yeah. I heard it was a movie over here as well, wasn't it?
it didn't play on the cinemas the way Spider-Man did,
Oh, it
or the
didn't. Did you
or
get the
no, no,
TV
no.
series then?
No, it just became it was just a TV show.
Oh, okay, cool. So for
Yeah,
me, that first iconic moment, man, when he can't change the tire in the rain.
yeah.
You know, the first transformation and the dun 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 dun. I was like, oh my god, I was man
You
loves,
can't.
man loves.
What is amazing about that whole sequence, and you can't underestimate it, right? Is and you knew what we're doing right at the time. Is the sound mix is
Mm,
so important.
oh yeah,
The
always.
low sort of like almost exorcist choir that
Mm,
plays
yeah.
as he's going through the change. You know, he's changing into the Hulk, and then you've got that sort of like almost like the very similar to the choir they use when they go into the Stargate sequence in 2001.
Mm.
It makes it
Well,
bigger than what it is.
do you
Makes
mean
it
like
more
the sound?
operatic.
Do you mean because it's got to be, and we waited for this every episode to happen at least twice,
Mm.
where you know it's like you make him angry, and then you cut to the close up of his eyes, right? And his eyes are white and stuff, and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
oh man, he's coming, you know, and stuff like that.
The thing
Every
is about that
episode that
one,
happened at least twice, you know.
the thing I got from that whole sequence, though, so sorry to cut you, but the whole thing I got from that whole sequence was with the choir and everything else, and the whole the Exorcist feeling, the Omen, which is another thing they were kind of tapping into. I think
Mm,
is that it was almost this is science playing against God, right? This
mm,
is this is science playing God, right? This is them taking the power of the Prometheus's flame and stuff. And this is
mm,
the scientist that plays with that and gets burned, right? He
mm.
becomes this creature that you can't control. Once you take something that shouldn't be like the Hulk, and then you take it out like the genie out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. So
Yeah.
it's almost like with Godzilla, and literally, if you go right back to the original 1963 comic books, it's a parable for the atomic age. Once
Yeah.
you create the atomic bomb, you can't uncreate it. Once you
Mm.
create the Hulk, you can't uncreate the Hulk, right?
No,
That's
no.
and you've got a Oppenheimer character in Bruce Banner who is literally, as the music is called, the end theme is called "The Lonely Man," a
Mm.
lonely man carrying a yeah. I know somebody, and every time that the Lonely Man theme played, she would
Mm.
cry. She couldn't not
Oh,
cry.
oh, she needs a
She'd
hug.
have to, she's oh yeah, she's a wonderful.
Yeah.
If you wanted to tease her, that's what you would do. You do the
Mm.
Lonely Man theme, and then she'd get angry at you.
No, no. Well, so I mean, we talked about how like Bill Bixby, I mean, this guy is a legend. I mean, he had
Absolutely.
several different TV shows and stuff, but this was kind
He
of like
started
his
off
tour de
actually in
force.
the Elvis movies, didn't he? He was
Well,
a
I know for me it was
Elvis
Courtship of
movie.
Eddie's father, but
Well, yeah, but before that, it was My Favorite Martian.
well, yeah, that too. That I love that one as well and everything. But it was but so these characters like he has to go from town to town and everything and there's always like bad guys, always rustlers, always drug dealers, always crime people, and he would always be in the wrong place at the wrong time,
Corrupted,
and
corrupted
everything.
wrestling
And
as well, I mentioned.
what I liked was the stunts, because like when Lou comes, of course, it's all about Lou coming, and
Yeah.
he would say that he would have to wear like shirts like two sizes too small and then just flex. But throwing people through the air and into cardboard, tables and boxes and it's just awesome. So let's just say like any favorite moments or iconic moments for you. So for me, it'd be Hulk in Times Square. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because again,
Hulk in Times Square.
that was also my
I think
place.
was that the episode where he's working for the wrestling promotion and
Mm.
he's like sweeping the floor or something in a
Oh, he's
wrestling
always
promotion
sweeping the
scene?
floor, bro. But I mean, like,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
just
always
talking
sweeping the floor.
about.
It's like,
I mean, the episode itself is not the iconic thing for me. It's when Lou is in Times Square itself.
oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
When he's in
Like
Times
when
Square.
they're doing a 360 around him, and I'm like,
Oh,
you know, this was my stomping grounds kind of thing. So it was just you know, it's one of my favorite moments. That and I don't know what episode it was, but the psychology episode where they split the two of them, him and the Hulk, and so
well, it's like a
like
mind palace
yeah, the
moment.
mind palace.
It's like a visualization of Bruce
Yeah,
Banner.
so
Trying to visualize the Hulk in a cage,
yeah,
and he's trying to
so
basically
that
create the idea of him.
yeah,
And
that
then
was the thing. So he's in the
yeah,
desert and he's in a cage, and you
yeah.
know, like you know, he could lock him up in that cage and stuff. But then you know, the shots of like Lou just walking through the desert. I mean, that was my favorite episode. But
I think there's two episodes that we discussed this. There's two episodes that spring to mind to me. One of them is called The First, which is when
yeah,
the this is
there
the
was
only time you
supposed to be a previous Hulk like
yeah,
creature,
a
and I think
proto Hulk, which is the only time I can really think of when they actually try and add and create a bigger mythology for the TV show than when it already
yeah,
existed. Because
yeah,
before that, it was very much, as you say, it was very much this linear path
yeah.
for an episode, and it didn't really sort of like expand or add other characters, or there was no sort of like long form storytelling involved with the TV show. But
I
with the
also
film,
I also
he
think
added
that
something.
I also think the actor who played the Hulk was like one of the first Hulk characters before Lou. I think there was like two Hulks before Lou Ferrigno, and one of them
The
was
guy, one of the
one.
people they wanted to play the Hulk was the guy who ended up being Jaws
Yeah, I
in
was gonna say Richard Kiel. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he was. I mean, they actually even tried in an early version of the storyline to see if the Hulk could talk. So they were going to try and do a Hulk smash version, but they
Mm,
didn't like it. They didn't take
no,
to it. The
no.
producer of the Incredible Hulk TV show was Kenneth Johnson,
Yeah,
who went on to do V and also
Alienation.
Alienation. Alienation, yeah. And one of the things that he really brought to the show was trying to ground it and give it a sort of a gravitas, especially
Mm,
the that Bruce Banner character. Getting back to those things that I mentioned earlier on about the Prometheus, and Oppenheimer,
yeah,
and Bill Bixby perfectly sort of embodied all of that, and the vulnerability, the sort of the tortured nature of
yeah.
David Banner on the TV show. I mean, we all know about what the
He left so
execs.
many broken hearts behind.
Yeah, I think it's the CBS execs. Don't think it was Kenneth Johnson, but it was definitely the execs that
Mm.
said that his name had to be changed from Bruce Banner to
Oh, to
David
David
Banner.
Banner. Yeah, that was stupid. I mean, yeah. I thought that
Yeah,
Bruce sounded kind of like, yeah, soft
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Um,
But there was also two other episodes I want to mention before we move to the movies. So there was one episode with where Bill Bixby got to play with Lou Ferrigno, where he was actually another character, because in real life, Lou Ferrigno is kind of like deaf in one ear and everything
yeah,
like that. And so he was able to actually talk and play alongside something to do with helping some kid out, I think, and everything, bodybuilding and stuff like that. But so I thought that was really a nice episode, and there was a good chance for Lou to show that he can act as well and
yeah,
everything. But then also there was another nice episode where like Bill Bixby actually was going through a divorce. So it's not why the series ended, but near the end, as the series was dying down, he had to, he was having problems with his wife. They had a child, whatever, and but like he got to have her come and be on the show. And so she acted on the show. I forgot what episode it was, but just thought it was a nice story where they were able to work out their differences and stuff like that, and everything. So she got a part on the show. So I thought that was good. But the show had to come to an end, I guess, because they did run 5, I think maybe 6 series, but I think it was 5 in '83, and because like I said, I think he had enough as well. But 5 years later, he's back and everything, and they came back in force, I think, and this is what I think most people recognize is the trilogy of films. So you had the Return of the Incredible Hulk in '88, The Trial of the Hulk in '89, and Death of the Hulk in '90. And supposedly it wasn't going to stop there, right? Supposedly, it was going to go past that because it went so well. But then we lost Bill Bixby, didn't we? And stuff. But so the first one, Hulk, The Return of the Incredible Hulk. And stuff. You remember this one? This is Thor. Now, we had a little, I wouldn't say we had an argument, but we had a little disagreement. We had a little disagreement about this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's fair to say that.
It's fair to say
that. I'm not a fan of the representation of Thor in this movie.
You didn't like the fact that they went for this genie in the bottle scenario where they split the two, Don Blake and Thor. Yeah. So go ahead, now go.
Yeah, I'm okay with reinterpreting characters to a degree for screen, but I thought this one just kind of like lost the spirit for me. Like about when I was reading Thor, and the idea of having Donald Blake standing next to Thor just didn't work for me at all.
Well, I liked it because
Donald Blake turned into Thor. Yeah. Then when he's not, Thor, he's Donald Blake. He has the cane. He uses the cane.
He didn't have a cane in this one, yeah.
He didn't have a cane. Yeah. He just sort of like, it just seemed like what's the pathos for this character now? Well, I know you're saying it's a genie in the bottle. But to me, that doesn't really ring true to me. It doesn't seem like it's not a good fit.
Well, it was because this was bringing it back. I think this was actually a backdoor pilot, mainly, as we were talking earlier about these unsold pilots. So it was like, hey, how could we sell this Thor concept, this duality and everything? And I think somebody actually came up with the idea was, hey, why don't we introduce it as he's battling the Hulk? Yeah, but that show's no longer on. Well, we could bring it back at the movie and everything. So I looked at it as a show. I can't remember who played Don Blake, but Eric Allen Kramer, who I love, played Thor and everything. And I really like him, and I think he captured the essence of Thor, really well.
Wasn't half bad. Yeah, he wasn't half bad. He got
I just didn't like the outfit. What?
Yeah, wasn't there a biker bar sequence where he's going for a beer and he gets involved in a bar fight?
More than likely, with bikers, more than likely. Yeah. I mean, but it's like I know, like when they go up against when they first find out, like they confront because Banner supposedly was Don Blake's old teacher. So Don Blake knew who he was when he saw him and everything. So he comes to see him and stuff. And, he said, well, so you have this problem. So tell me about this problem. And so he calls out Thor. So he pulls a hammer out of a bag and he calls on Thor and everything. So Thor's like, what am I doing here? Da, da, da. And so that's when Bixby gets upset. And it's like, you don't get Bixby upset and everything. And they're like, who are you? You're not going to take me away from this puny man, are you? Da, da, da. It's like, stop hitting him. Hey, stop hitting him.
Or something?
Troll. No, well, when he sees him, he calls him Troll. Troll!
Yeah.
I love it because he was so playful in that everything and stuff. And I think actually in that first episode, I think actually didn't Lou Ferrigno and Stan Lee do a cameo together? I think in that one because I think they were coming. I think they were coming out of the building when they had that first fight. So when Hulk jumps off of the roof of the science lab and everything, but it was like it was really good, you know. And I thought, look, we don't have flying Thor, but we have Thor with this kind of lightning charged hammer, and but yeah, it was kind of awkward in a way for Donald Blake to just be running around going, hey man, what about me? What about me? And everything. But
I think one of the reasons why they had that conceit though was probably so he can get captured every episode. Donald Blake gets captured.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Blake.
And everything. And so in the final shot, you know, they running off together, Thor and Hulk running off together, kind of like rocking Apollo or something.
That scene on the beach. Yeah.
But no.
You think they should have done the boxing match at the end and go like, you know, they could lace up the blood.
Yeah. Who can beat who? You know, and then freeze frame. Yeah, right. Do it like that.
Ring the bell for ding ding.
Yeah, ding, ding. Yeah. So then we both said we liked this episode, The Trial of the Hulk. And this was in '89, so it was an older Bill Bixby. You know, he's got kind of like a gray and weathered beard, but he tries to stop a mugging on a train, or he doesn't try to stop a mugging on a train. He gets involved because he's always in the wrong place at the wrong time and stuff. And the girl, you know, won't say, you know, who the muggers were because they work for Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, played by John Rhys Davies.
This is the one and only time where we actually get a Marvel supervillain.
This is exactly why I'm saying it, because it's like it's, you know, so it's our first Marvel villain, and John Rhys Davies as like kind of like the corporate kingpin, the digital kingpin, you know, because he got these like sunglasses and he, you know, could, see all these different things. But then it also introduces us to Kingpin's arch enemy, which is Daredevil, played by Rex Smith, who was famous for Street Hawk.
You remember Street Hawk? Street Hawk's amazing. Yeah,
I love Street Hawk. Yeah, who didn't love Street Hawk?
Tangerine Dream soundtrack, amazing.
Oh, well, who doesn't love Tangerine Dream? Yeah, you know. But now, interestingly enough, you know, they didn't go for the red suit. They went for this black suit with like kind of like a beanie mask over the eyes and everything.
Yeah,
which came back in the Daredevil Netflix series.
Yeah,
that was never. Now, would you agree that was never Daredevil's costume in the comics?
Well, there was a version that there was a kind of something, not the same, but kind of similar.
No, but this black outfit was the same as Marvel's Netflix Daredevil.
Oh yeah. No, that's definitely one of the main influences. But they did something similar that was actually probably based on the one from Charlie, kind of a whole. I think Frank Miller might have done it for, like, they did like a Daredevil Year One, where it was like a prototype suit before he actually got the black and yellow suit, which is the first Daredevil suit, the red suit.
Yeah.
So they did something similar in the comic books, but that was actually written and drawn after Trial of the Incredible.
That's what I'm thinking. So, I'm thinking that what they were just trying to do was tie in the Marvel comic to the TV show, because the TV show was always kind of like a tie-in. So, but I mean, I like that. I loved his rendition of Matt Murdock and everything. And the dream sequence, you know, again, you know, always got to mention the Stan Lee cameos, right? But the dream sequence in the trial where the Hulk, he hulks out in front of everyone and everything, and you're wondering, wait a minute, you know, he's never hulked out in front of everyone. Wait a minute, what's going on? And then it turns out that it was the nightmare and stuff. But it was fantastic, because there was a time when the Hulk punches a guard out the window. So you're like, wait a minute, Hulk doesn't kill. You know, like when he's going after the
Mm.
prosecutor and everything, and he punches the guard out the window. So you're like, wait a minute, this must be a dream. This must be a dream. This must be a dream. Please make it a dream. You know, this is worse than Batman using guns. Please make it a dream. You know, but yeah, so obviously, you know, they team up and go after Wilson Fisk, and the girl, you know, like testifies and everything, and that was great. And I think, you know, like I said, I think that when they did the Thor one, the Thor was supposed to be a one-off for a pilot, and I think in a way this was also another one-off pilot, you know, because I mean Rex Smith, you know, like we said, he did Street Hawk and everything, you know, could he do Daredevil? So this would have been like our first attempt at the Daredevil series instead of just the movie. But neither of these pilots sold, so shame. So then that leads us to the final one, which is Death of the Incredible Hulk, and starring Elizabeth Grayson. So Elizabeth Grayson was playing like this kind of like Russian spy. You know, they were trying to get this code and stuff from Bruce Banner or David Banner once again. But then, as a Russian spy, you know, she falls for him and he falls for her. And I think he's had sex before in the show, you know, where, you know, like, well, he got married. in that big movie in season 2 and everything. But so anyway, so this is him finding love again. Maybe do you think I can love again? But what I was saying was, you know, her character was a lot like another Russian spy from Marvel, Black Widow.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So her character was a lot like Black Widow without calling her Black Widow and everything.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is that with this being the last Lou Ferrigno Hulk depiction, that when we get the Marvel movies and we get the Mark Ruffalo Hulk, what do? They pair him with Russian spy like Black Widow. So I just thought, these guys, they do pay attention to each other. They call it mythology.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no debate about it. I mean, remember Lou Ferrigno's actually in the Incredible Hulk movie that they did with Edward Norton. So
yeah.
Definitely not to the old TV show.
Yeah, that could be the one where I think that him and Stan Lee was walking out of the building and security guards would have been the Ed Norton movie.
Yes, that is true. That's actually,
okay. That makes sense. But what I was gonna say was that death theme, that love theme, when he falls on the helicopter and hits the ground and turns his back, you know, the song was so beautiful. I always tried to find that, you know, and everything like that. But it's a great song, and it was a great swan dive kind of thing. But like I said, even though he died because they were making a trilogy, I heard on the rumor mill, you know, that they were thinking about doing a fourth one, you know, like Hulk Reborn or something like that, you know, and everything. Because, you know, hey, you know, the big guy, you know, I could put a bullet in my mouth and the big guy spits it out, right? So it was kind of like death scene, roll credits before he wakes up. But I mean, either way, it's hopefully, you know, I mean, you know, if you have any other like favorite memories from the Hulk TV series, and everything, please, you know, feel free to comment down below. I mean, this is for
I was going to say
to chat about these things.
Oh yeah, so the one episode that really stands out for me was one I was mentioning to you before about called Metamorphosis, which is set mostly in a cabin that's surrounded by a forest fire.
I think, yeah, but when you say the way you describe that, I remember one where he had to be bandaged up, and because he was burnt in that fire, and he had to be bandaged up, and he was with McGee, and him and McGee had to escape because the forest was on fire, and they had to help each other, but they could work together because he was bandaged up. You know, so McGee didn't know, but then McGee did kind of suspect that he might be, because by this time McGee knew that the Hulk had a human form, you know, but he didn't suspect that it was Banner. But you know, he started to get little trickles. So you know, that's what was really very tense about that episode. Is that not the same episode, or is that just another one I'm talking about?
It could. I mean, there could be elements of that
Yeah,
are that, that are the same. I mean, we know it's a long time ago, but I do
yeah.
remember that the main crux of the episode was that Banner was half stuck in transformation, so he was half Hulk and half Bruce Banner. It's
Half
basically,
Hope. Yeah. That's a
yeah,
different episode. I think
yeah,
talking about that's a different episode and,
yeah.
and everything.
And there was an attempt to do something that was that harkened back to Thunderbolt Ross and Talbot, where the Hulk gets captured. I don't even remember the one where he's basically captured into he's trapped within a sort of like a capsule, and it
Hmm.
being airlifted underneath a helicopter towards
Hmm.
base.
Yeah.
You can do experiments on the
I
Hulk.
didn't know that Ross and Talbot was in that episode. I don't think
Oh
I
no, they
didn't.
weren't in it. No, they weren't in it, but it was elements of those characters were
Oh
sort of
yeah. Because
they
that's the
never really
thing.
like
They didn't
yeah,
represent Ross and Talbot in the
yeah.
TV series. They should have, but they didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how they kind of like if you look at the one
That they
through
didn't have
line, I
an
think
army. I think reason why was because if they brought an element of the army chasing him every week, then there would have been more money and more explosions, more like destruction. And I mean that is
yeah,
comic book Hulk, but that wasn't TV Hulk.
yeah.
So that's why they didn't use those characters, I feel, and everything, you know.
But though, if you think about it, though, I mean, it would have been quite cool. And a couple of years later, you do get the A Team, which are basically getting chased by the army every week. So,
Yeah, the
yeah,
18. Yeah. EA
it kind of
Baracus
works.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Awesome.
God, oh God. All right. So anyway, so now moving on to our third thing that was on top of the shelf is the one we don't really want to talk about, but we should, is the Captain America series.
But we can talk a
Um
little bit about this, and we can also talk about Doctor Strange pilot if you want to talk
oh
about
yeah,
that
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll get to that. But so Captain America was 79. And everything. So it was like still in the middle. I mean, Spider-Man's done. Hulk is still high, but what it was Captain America. See, as we've been talking all this time, is like superheroes. The networks never really seem to trust them too much, so they trusted them enough to pay for pilots, and those pilots will sometimes be movies. So what they did was is that they did the first Captain America movie with Red Brown as Steve Rogers. Now, what was different about this was that Steve Rogers was actually the son of Captain America because they wanted it in the modern day. So they didn't want to have to worry about, he was frozen in ice and all of this other kind of stuff. So this guy, he's kind of like a Nick Fury type guy and stuff like that. And he gives him, instead of it being called the super soldier serum, it's called Flag.
Mm.
Anyway, and so he says, Steve, be Captain America for your dad. So what they do is they give him a jet powered motorcycle because at
Yes.
this time Captain America, was like Green Lantern, where he was like going around the country on a motorcycle, but they gave him a
Mm.
glass shield because they thought, well, why should it be white? Like the white circle inside the red and the blue. So they just had a glass shield, and then they had the red circle and the blue.
Yeah.
Crazy, but it was bulletproof and everything. And so Steve took the serum, so he was durable and all of that. And so they were going up against terrorists. So in this first one, it was a bomber played by Steve Forrest, who was Hondo, the head of SWAT.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Did he also go on to star in Alligator? Was that Alligator the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another show,
Yeah.
and stuff. And
That's
Heather
another time.
and Heather Menzies was the love interest.
It's
Playing.
interesting you bring up. I mean, the one thing about this that always struck me, and I imagine this is. I mean, it was completely must have been deliberate. Was the fact that when you start bringing in the idea of this rocket pack
Rocket bike.
motorcycle, the
Yeah.
bike, it's basically because Evil Knievel was really popular.
I was going to say that, but I'm glad you did, so that I didn't have to say everything.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
didn't he wear
That's
a
why I
red,
was
white,
trying to say
blue?
this was 79 because
Yeah,
that was the height of Evil Knievel jumping
yeah.
canyons.
The canyon jump. But he had a red, white, kind of
He
like a
did. Well,
winged
Stephen,
jumpsuit.
yeah. Evil Knievel, I mean, and he inspired a comedy character called Super Dave Osborne,
Yeah.
and everything like that. But you were exactly right, man. I actually had the Evil Knievel rocket bike toy, and everything.
Oh,
And so,
do you know they had a Batman version of it as well?
well, probably so. Everybody
Yeah,
had
yeah, they had a
the
Batman.
jetpack. I mean, remember the movie Hooper? Come on, so Burt
Oh
Reynolds,
God, yeah, who plays Burt Reynolds? Yeah, and
rocket car.
John Michael Vincent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Who
But
became Airwolf?
but
Who became
that is a
Airwolf?
conversation for another
I
time.
know, exactly. Stop yourself. So, so anyway, so Steve becomes Captain America, and as I was saying before, is like for some reason, even though he took the serum and everything like that, they decided to add sound effects as he will be jumping, up floor, one or two floors,
Yeah.
and so you play it back, it go. It's like, what the hell? What the hell are you doing?
But this is all harkening back to what we were discussing earlier on about the idea that the whole cycle for all these shows was really inspired by the success of the $6 Million Man. And
Yeah,
for one thing, the Captain America movies proved was the fact that they really wore that on their sleeve. They were completely transparent by what was their main influence and what was the main reason
yeah,
to make these movies in the first place. We
yeah,
want to be we want to be the $6 Million Man.
yeah, and as transparent as Captain America's shield.
Yeah,
So,
as a shield was. Yeah.
so they didn't wait another year to do another pilot. So it's kind of like, you've always heard of these shows having like two pilots, like Star Trek had two pilots and everything else like that. So what they just did was in the same year, 79, they came out with Captain America 2, Death Too Soon. Now, what I thought was interesting about that title was because it's like there was a major comic book title and with Captain America called Death Be Not Proud, because of like he was always mourning and lamenting Bucky, death and everything. So, but with this one, the villain was Christopher Lee, playing a terrorist of unknown origin, even though he was an Englishman. But they didn't want to say that he was a South American terrorist or an Asian terrorist or whatever. So, but they called him Miguel. And what also I thought was interesting was, so Heather Menzies, they changed her out. See, there's all of these shows, they always change out these characters.
Yeah,
So it was the same character, but this time she was played by the lovely Connie Selica, who went on to be Ralph Hinckley's girlfriend in The Greatest American Hero. Get that?
Yes.
Get that? So here she is, sidekick girlfriend of Captain America. This is not going to work. How about a show called Greatest American Hero? Who should be the girl? How about this one?
Greatest American Hero did work though.
I love Greatest American Hero. I love it. It's great. It's on my Roku stick. But yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny and everything, and as well as them just trying to hide the nationality of their villain in this one. But I just think that it was just funny how Steve just doing the same thing. This time he's officially working for what they're not calling Shield, and so here's your first mission if you choose to accept it, but the studio won't accept you, so you're out. You just get two movies there, buddy.
I mean, the one thing I got from Red Brown is that Red Brown didn't he turn years later.
And you're of the future.
Well, I was gonna say Miami Vice. He was in a episode. Was it Zombie Vikings from Hell or something it was called.
Oh my God, no.
And he played like this sort of like, I don't know if he was like super coked up bad guy, ex-Marine type. And I remember Don Johnson like shooting him about like 7 or 8 times, and then he was like high on PCP or something, and he just
Oh,
charged
that's
and then he went
an
outside of the
actor
blue.
needing a job.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah,
But
he
he
was.
was your. Don't you remember your of the future, and where
Yeah,
he came
you're the
from the
future. Yeah,
future into the prehistoric times, and
yeah.
but then he also was in Uncommon Valor, so he was one of the soldier boys in Uncommon Valor, which I love that one, where it's like
Yeah,
guys
that's the one
returning
with
back to
Gene
Vietnam.
Hackman, right? That's Gene Hackman.
Ah, is it Gene Hackman? No, but
Gene Hackman goes look because takes the he puts the team together to go back into
it could,
Australia.
yeah, it could be. Then maybe it could be. I mean, it's like I remember Red Baron. Don't hate me. Just remember Red Brown. The
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so either way is that before I go from Captain America to everything else, I just wanted to bring up the 1990 Captain America movie, the first one by
Yeah,
Albert Pian,
Peon.
with Matt Salinger fighting the Red Skull. So again, this
Yeah,
was like coming off of TV. They went into the movies, and then they realized
yeah.
that they needed an actual villain. So they got Scott Polson to play, and he did a really good job, I thought, to play the Red Skull
I thought so.
and
Yeah,
everything.
I
And
always thought it would be Frank Langella because, like, let's face it,
yeah.
skeletal Red Skull, it would have worked.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Well, Albert Pian already paid him to do Skeletor. So
yeah,
don't you know
you could
that
have
Masters
just
of the
kept the same
Universe is a
costume.
Pian movie? Can't you tell?
Could have just kept the same makeup and just put him in a
No, but it's
uniform.
funny how you just said Frank Langella, but he's like he probably thought the same thing. I think Frank Langella will work in this.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Didn't he do like wasn't Albert Pune? Didn't he do the Cyborg movie with
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
John
yeah,
Claude
with
whatever.
Van
Yeah,
Damme, yeah,
yeah,
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
supposed to be the Cyborg movie was supposed to be a sequel,
Mm-hmm.
originally written as a sequel to Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, yeah. And then they said, no, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
No, no,
Well, I don't think
okay.
they could get Dolph Lundgren at the time. So.
Well, you know what? Though? No, it's funny because, like, with the show On the Shelf, we had just did a special episode on John Carpenter, and we were talking about, like Escape from New York and the tragedy that became Escape from LA. So what happened is that John was working on the trilogy. Did you know this?
The
So
third one's going to be Escape from Earth, right?
no, Escape from Mars.
Mars. I always thought it was Escape from Earth. Really?
Check it out.
Because wasn't that like sort of like didn't he like wasn't there some sort of like lawsuit to do with Fortress because it was supposed to be some elements?
Yeah, but so what they said was no, probably because Escape from LA didn't work, probably because of the lawsuit to Fortress. But know what John did? Know what John Carpenter did then? He just said, okay, Ghost of Mars.
No.
He made that.
Is Desolation Jones supposed to be Snake Plissken? Really?
Yeah. So it was supposed to be Snake Plissken. No, Ice Cube. The part that Ice Cube played was supposed to be Snake Plissken.
Yeah, Desolation Jones is the Ice Cube part.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
That's bad.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So
that's something for another episode.
Yeah, that is. So anyway, so the best of the rest. Yeah, we got Howard the Duck in '86. Some people consider this like one of the first Marvel movies. With Tim Robbins and Jeffrey Jones. But it's produced by George Lucas.
Yeah.
And then you got
the duck should have been animated. If he had animated the duck, it would have been.
Yeah, but this is before like Toontown and Roger Rabbit and
but you say that, but it's after Mary Poppins.
You know what? To be honest with you, Chip Zien played Howard. And I thought the costume was fine. It's just the movie was crap. You know what I mean? Meaning the script and everything else. But I thought the costume was fine. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
they
you
didn't
thought
have.
the costume was okay. I thought it was crap. But
Yeah, but you know what? At that time, I wasn't
afterwards,
fussy. We didn't.
I was.
Okay. All right.
I saw Howard the New Breeder here, and the first thing that went through my mind was, you should have animated it. You
Yeah.
should have
Well.
started off. You should have come from an animated world. You should have come into the real world. You should have
Yeah.
stayed a cartoon. That's how you do it. That's how you do Howard the Duck. You
Yeah.
don't do it with, you don't create a sort of like a really poor man's
Yeah.
animatronic suit and try and pull that off, because
Yeah.
it is really not.
Well, speaking of poor man animatronics, that moves us to the first version of Fantastic Four in '94. So, like, you know, just to drop dime on this is funny. So this guy, Bert Eidinger or something like that, whatever, he had bought the rights to Fantastic Four in '86, and he tried to get this movie made, and nobody would make it, and he was going to lose those rights in '92. And everything, so he's like, "Oh, I better make this movie, and I got to make it fast. So who do I go?" And he goes to Roger Corman, the man who brought us the lovely Humanoids from the Deep.
Yeah.
No, it was funny. Wait. Let me tell you what's funny here, though. Right? Roger says to him, "So, what's your budget?" And he's like, "Yeah, so the budget is supposed to be $30 million. Oh, right. I never had that kind of money. This is great. That's great. And then he said, I don't have $30 million. Oh, okay. Then what do you have? I have $1 million. Okay. I could get some friends together, and like we could shoot this over the weekend. Right? Because this is what Roger Stilo was. With Martin Scorsese, with Ron Howard, with Jack Nicholson, all these guys, Roger Corman had a studio, and he was just like, "Yo, come in over the weekend and shoot whatever you want to shoot." You know what I mean? So they did that with this version of the Fantastic Four, which is why it looks so crap, right? So you got this guy, Ole Sasson, right, to direct, and the guy goes, "You want me to direct that? Okay, all right, cool." So they go hell hog, right? So they shoot this movie in like about a couple of days, right?
Right.
And everything. And then, you know, they tell the actors, yeah, man, so this movie's going to go out. They're going to release it. So they start doing interviews. They start making TV spots, right? They say, wow, this is great. We're making the Fantastic. And so people go, oh, well, that's why I was like a Phil threat and all this other kind of stuff. And then, like, the guy shows up and he goes, the editing guy goes, so you got my movie? Yeah, of course. We're about to release that. You know, like we're about to premiere it tomorrow. He goes, I don't think so. Take my movie. Here's your $1 million. Burn everything. It was like a Clive Davis move, right? Burn everything. And Roger's like, $1 million? Okay. So he calls up the director. He's like, director's all dressed in the suit, ready. Oh, you coming to the premiere, Roger? He said, no, there will be no premiere. What do you mean there'll be no premiere? Yeah, I got my $1 million. I'll give you your cut, and we have to burn everything. So everybody is told, like right before that it's all gonna premiere. I mean, they shot this movie, man. You know, you've seen it, haven't you? You've seen this piece of dunghole. I bought it in a comic book shop, you know, in the bootleg section and everything. So if you haven't seen this, and there's a great documentary that came out last year. I think it's called Doomed or something like that, and everything. Please watch it. It is awesome. And everything, the tragedy that happened to this movie, but that is just fantastic. Roger's like, okay.
Well, the movie itself is a tragedy. I mean, you know, whatever happens afterwards, a mercy killing. But yeah,
well,
for sure.
I mean, they had Dr. Doom, but instead of having the mole man, they had the jeweler.
Yeah, that made no sense to me whatsoever.
Because they didn't have the right to the mole man, probably, bro.
Yeah,
you know, and so, but that was crazy. But yeah, man, you know, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to get those little nuggets out. So you said you wanted to talk about Doctor Strange, that old like Doctor Strange.
Well, I just wanted to briefly bring it up because I think it's one of the things that kind of like gets kind of forgotten when you have these conversations about Marvel is
Yeah,
that
because it was the worst. It was on that rack that you just like, nah, Doctor
yeah.
Strange, no.
Mm, I
Until
mean, the
Benedict
weird thing
Cumberbatch,
about
no.
no, I mean the weird thing about it is that if you think about that whole Doctor Strange thing, he could have easily have done it with a lot more uh, sort of care and attention to detail. He could have made it something interesting.
Yeah.
Or I mean, because I mean, what is I mean, Doctor Strange is just a master of the occult, right? So
Yeah, but I think they didn't want.
and
I
this,
think they didn't know how to do the Sterenko. They didn't know how to,
yeah. Well, they
do
couldn't
the
do that.
whole. Well, this is what I'm trying to say. They didn't know how
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that, and so they had nothing. I mean, that you don't have Doctor Strange without that whole psychedelic dream stuff.
But do you remember I'm not sure if it was just a pilot, but do you remember Robert Culp starred as an occultist, sort of detective
In a
in a
cultist
pilot? I think it
detective.
was called Spectre. It was like Spectre or something. It was called.
Right.
Remember? It was like a one-off. And
Yeah.
that had a lot of influences from Doctor Strange.
Right.
It's like other people can take influences from Doctor Strange and sort of inhabit the character. But when
Hmm.
somebody actually tries to do Doctor Strange, it never actually works. I think it's because they tried to do the suit and they had the cape and
Yeah,
the
but it works now,
blue.
though, right? So it's like I can
Oh,
understand you saying that. We
yeah,
all probably thought what you thought at that time, but it does actually work. It depends on the hands that you put it in. You know what I mean? I think
yeah.
and that movie, yeah, I don't even have any notes on it. But so the last film I got because I figured I mean, we should lead the '90s by hitting the X-Men. And but this is not even the X-Men, it's Generation X.
Yeah.
Matt Fuhrer was the bad guy. But
Mhm.
what I actually like it was like this was like because it was the '90s, yeah. This was like the '90s version of the generation of the New Mutants, right? So where you had like Monet and Jubilee, Skin, and all those characters. So it was really
Yes.
surprising that like we didn't have an X-Men movie yet, right? And everything. So it was really surprising um, that they went this route. So you got Banshee and Emma Frost going around gathering up the troops and everything. And
So we actually have Emma Frost on the screen before we have Jean Grey.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's crazy
And
when you think
and
about it.
and well, it is because it's not the X-Men, but and they called it Generation X, but it was just kind of like, yeah, they went this route because I think they went this route because of the diversity. Because you got to think that the characters, like you got Monet, she was black. You have
Yeah.
Mondo and Skin, who were ethnic characters, but also strangely you had Jubilee, right? Now,
Yeah.
Jubilee is famously Asian, right?
Yeah.
She's famously Chinese or Korean or Asian. Yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
they got some white girl to be Jubilation Lee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just talked about all the diversity that they had in this thing, but I mean, and she was a known actress as well, but yeah.
Yeah. But
So much for diversity.
yeah. Yeah. I
And
seem to
everything.
remember this. There's only like some a few things I can really take from this Generation X pilot. Is that there was a lot of crazy camera angles, and he shot it very much in a Schumacher sort of way.
Yeah, well, they were trying to do that whole the crazy angles without doing the frames and stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
lots of blues and purples, color schemes in the background.
But also too is that they had it was funny how you mentioned that no Jean Grey. They had two new characters, two white characters who were very much like Cyclops and Jean Grey. So they had this guy called Kirk, right? Now Kurt is Nightcrawler, ain't he? But they had this white guy called Kurt with glasses who could do crazy things with his eyes.
It's just because they couldn't do Chamber.
I think they just didn't have the license to do the 4 main members of the X-Men. You know, they didn't even have a Xavier and stuff like that. You know, so that's I think because Generation Next was so new that they had access. It's kind of like when they did the Mutant X TV show, which was horrible, right? But Adam X and everything. It was like, yeah, we could take those characters, you know, even with the Gifted, we could take those characters and everything, and you know, because there's so many of them, right? So that's what they did. So that closes us out of the golden age of Marvel on television and everything. And I hope you enjoyed the experience and everything. What memories do you remember?
I don't know. People who are watching this are probably going to realize the fact that I haven't actually got because I'm talking to you all the time. But
what, you haven't gotten up to turn the lights on? Yeah.
So it's actually like, you know, just my universe is collapsing in on itself.
I know, it's like the vampire crow is coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's all right. We're at the end, you know, and hopefully you'll be slowly encapsulated in darkness.
That's what's happening right now. That's why I'm literally floating.
It's not even that dark outside, but you know, it's just because you haven't turned the lights on. But anyway, so like I just said, so you've been watching On the Shelf. It's time to put these tapes back up on the shelf. And thanks for going over these films, or TV shows, actually. And if you enjoyed that, you know, let us know, because I would love to do a DC breakdown and everything, you know, be fair to both sides of the universe. But I want to thank my man Steve for joining me, because, like, at least you know this world. You're from this world. You know what I mean? So it's better than me just going on and on. But hey, didn't I do my research?
You did do your research. Dude, you were perfect, as always.
Well, thank you, man. Because, you know, usually I'm off the top of the head, right? But, I mean, I just wanted to make sure that if people were watching, that we're giving them the facts. So it's all good. So once again, you know, thank you guys for watching. You know, please like and subscribe. And also, remember, this is Big Condo Radio as well. Big Condo Radio is now open for business. Our new studio up on Vauxhall Road, if you're here in Liverpool, is now open and everything. So please follow us on our websites and local areas. You know, our podcaster studio is out for rental, as well as our music studio as well. So I just want you to know that we're going to continue to bring more of these geek shows, more of these rest stops, where we're looking at the breakdowns of individual episodes. So hopefully Steve will be back around that. Hey, are you watching the Doom Patrol? You going to watch the Doom Patrol?
Oh, absolutely. The new trailer is amazing. I love it.
Well, all right, great, because Doom Patrol is out this weekend, bruv. So maybe you could join me on a Doom Patrol rest stop and everything, and stuff. You know,
Maybe even get out of the chair to put the light on. You never know.
I know. But go to sleep, bruv. It's late. So do that long. But yeah. So anyway, so we out of here, and thank you for watching. And as I always say is, well, I already said it, but I always say it again, is keep watching.